Hi, hey, hello. I am Unapologetically Heather, here to empower and inspire. Welcome to another episode of Unapologetically Heather, Raw and Rising, the podcast where we get real about the raw, unfiltered stories behind entrepreneurship and personal growth. This month, we're diving into the topic of turning setbacks into comebacks. Every episode will bring you stories that highlight resilience, perseverance, and the beauty of rising from challenges. I'm super ecstatic to be joined today by Brittany. She's a mover and a shaker in real estate and single parenting. Brittany has a powerful story that ties really well into the theme for this month. And quite frankly, we have a lot of similarities. So before we jump in, let's find out a little bit more about Brittany. So Brittany, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I have two boys. They are 11 and 9. They keep me very busy. We're in all the sports right now, which is so much fun. I'm obsessed with all the football things and just like dripping in all the embarrassing mom stuff. They love it. So that is basically my hobby currently because I am working so much that I feel like my hobby currently is just going to kids' sporting events. But it's great. So I got into real estate about this will be my 12th year, and I work with my mom. She's been in it about 18, 19 years. She told me to get licensed because she was just crazy busy, and I was very hesitant to do it. But when I got pregnant with my son, I was like, all right, this sounds like something I'd have a little bit more flexibility with him while he's little. So I got licensed back in 2013, and yeah, ever since I've been working with her. I mean, we're working on a team together, but we're not often like physically in the same spot. I feel like we're both busy enough to like need two people to like manhandle everything that's going on. So about 6 years ago, I got divorced, and that kind of like shifted my real estate a little bit because I had to take on my ex-husband's business at the time because he kind of just walked away from it. And my name was on the LLC too. So I had to step in and figure out how to run it, which I say figure out, but like I don't actually think I ever figured out how to run it. So that was like a 4-year like gap of a really big hiccup in my career. So once that was over, like the divorce and the business was done, I moved where I'm at now 2 years ago, and like I'm so close to where everything that I do my real estate with. So I've really been able to vamp up everything that I've been doing with my career and really focus on building that the past couple of years. And it's been building so fast now that my kids are in school and I don't have all this other negative stuff going on in my life.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to make it a little bit fun, and I'm going to ask you, tell us one unexpected or fun thing about you that we wouldn't find on social media.
What's one unexpected fun thing about me?
Everybody has fun stuff about them.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody always freezes. They're like, what?
I know. I feel like that's something I gotta like think about, and then I'm like, oh, I got a lot now. I don't like Hallmark movies or any of like those like I don't know, those TV shows are just not me. I mean, not that I have time to watch TV that often, but if I ever get the chance to, I feel like I just watch like crime shows or any sort of series that's like intensely stressful. Like that's the only thing. Otherwise, I get bored and I just fall asleep. So if it doesn't have crime or some type of like murder documentary or some type of very twisted show, like I'm out.
Oh yeah, totally. I could totally agree with that because that's me too. I'm like, they're Hallmark movies or we're watching murder shows. My husband's like,
Yeah.
Why do you watch these murder shows? And I'm like, listen, don't ever try me. Never.
You're like, I'm intrigued. Okay. Yeah. I get bored. Like the romantic Hallmark things. I'm just not into that.
I feel like they're all the same too.
Mm-hmm.
They're all the same. It's always the same plot. Yeah, always the same plot, always the same ending. Like the guy gets the girl or the girl gets the guy. Like, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch that.
And then I'm like, I'm sure it was great for a while.
Yeah. That. So this month's theme is all about setbacks and comebacks. And we're all hanging on the edge of our seats to hear your comeback story. So let's hear it.
Yeah. Do you want me to start at the fail or start at the comeback?
No. We want to hear the fail. We're all about sharing all the things.
We don't care about the good. Just give us the dirt first.
Yeah,
right?
we need the dirt because the dirt leads to the good stuff.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, my divorce took 2 full years in the actual court system, which was hell, obviously, and very stressful because I mean, you're splitting families. Like every relationship in your life is falling apart. you're doing everything on your own. Like, I'm trying to pay for everything. I'm trying to work. One of them was starting preschool. The other one was still in one of them was starting kindergarten. The other was still in a preschool. So I'm like paying for all these things, paying for the house. Now I have to pay the attorney. But I was working so much at the restaurant that was like basically abandoned. And it was a franchise restaurant. So I have corporate constantly like fining me every single day that I was like spending all my money on just keeping it open because there was not really any route to, if I closed it, I was going to be like sued for like 7 years of royalties and the lease, which I was like, I don't even know how long the lease goes because I wasn't really involved in it prior to this. So I had no experience in knowing how much money we were losing, what our margins were on like the products. Our staff, we had like 2 people that worked for us that were like in and out of jail like every other week. I'm not even kidding. There was like one time when we got robbed at gunpoint. This is all going on while I'm getting divorced. It was great. So we got robbed at gunpoint. A different time we had somebody like have a terrible meth trip and like destroyed the entire place because they were like paranoid, like digging through stuff. So they like ruined the entire store overnight. And like the person came to like open the next morning and like they were like, why are you still here? And everything was destroyed. And he had no idea that it was like 8 o'clock in the morning and we were supposed to close at like 9 o'clock at night.
Yikes.
So like, and then obviously we lost a ton of money on products because we had to throw so many things out because everything was destroyed. So that was all kind of going on. And then COVID hit. So it's like, I'm dealing with all that. I'm trying to pick up the pieces of this disastrous business that had absolutely no way of like being grounded in any way. Like there was no saving it at all. I was just trying to like float it until I could figure out how to like off it somewhere. So that was terrible. And then on top of just like the stress of divorce and custody and paying for everything, like you don't get money while you're going through it. So it's like I'm paying for all of the things. I have the kids the majority of the time. I'm taking them to all their stuff. I'm running this disastrous restaurant, but that I'm making no money on. I'm losing money every day on it and trying to, keep up on real estate so that I can actually make the money to pay for everything that I was doing. So in a nutshell, that was kind of the fail, even though I ended up I had to close the business because I found someone that was going to buy it, but here's the real fail, the numbers here. So we bought the business for $250,000 because we bought it from sorry, I didn't know if that was interrupting the audio here. So we bought it from my ex-husband's friend who was owning a bunch of these restaurants. And I didn't really know. I was like, okay, whatever. If he says he's giving you a good deal, we looked at all the numbers and everything. Turns out they were not accurate. So we buy this restaurant, $250,000. He leaves after a year. It's been bleeding money. We lost probably $50,000 of our own money, just floating it for the first year, which I was told it was doing really well. So I'm like, okay, it must be doing great. Cause I didn't do it. I didn't even know how to log into anything.
Right.
So then when I finally get in there and realize that he's not there anymore and there's a high schooler that's there, I'm like, okay, where are we at with the schedule? And they're like, we don't have a schedule. I'm like, how is this? What is going on? So then I had to get in and I kind of started to slowly unpack what was going on in there and realize this is really bad. So I found someone to buy it and they were going to buy it for $30,000. So great deal there, right? But I always I don't even care anymore. This has been stressing me out so much. It is just such a pain in my ass that I'd rather just take the 30 and cut my losses where it's at than continue to lose for I don't even know how many years and how many fines and whatever it is that I could ultimately be sued for however long for breaking all these agreements because it's a franchise. So I took the 30 grand but wait, it gets worse. So the guy was, we were supposed to close on the business on Monday, and the Friday before we were supposed to close, I had to wire corporate a $5,000 transfer fee that was just literally for them to move the paper. It was so stupid. So of course I'm taking that out of my own money because the business has got nothing. So I wire that over, and then he calls me on Saturday morning. We were on our way to a wedding, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I don't want this anymore." Yeah. So he walked away, and I was about to shave my head like Britney Spears on the way to this wedding. Like, I was like so close to being free. I was so close. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be one thing. Cause I was still going through the divorce and I was still in this like custody hell.
Right.
And like that I was dealing with. And it's like, oh my God, I'm going to get one terrible thing off my plate. Like, it's going to be one thing. I literally feel like I'm getting freed. Right. This was all going on during the Free Britney movement too, by the way. I got hurt. So, oh yeah, he didn't want it anymore. They wouldn't refund the transfer fee. They also said if I got another buyer, they would not use that. Like, I had to pay another transfer fee of $5,000 if there was another potential buyer. It was terrible. And then like corporate kind of fell apart because they were doing a bunch of shady stuff where they were like letting these franchises fail so they could like buy them and flip them like they're like local managers. So there was a bunch of lawsuits like involved with that, which again, I'm like just begging somebody to help me in any way survive. And so I got kind of screwed over with that. So I ended up having to close it in 2022. So this all started we bought the business in 2018. The divorce started in 2019. The divorce was finalized in the middle of 2021 and I closed the business in 2022. So it was like that many years of like pure torture. And then finally, like, I was able to move on.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. So how did you end up keeping the business even after the divorce was finalized?
Because he wouldn't go into it. So, I mean, if he was going to go into it, I would obviously not go, but he made it very clear that he wasn't going to do anything with it. And the court did say, like, in the mediation, like, hey, you're going to be responsible for, like, doing the things that you know how to do, because, like, she doesn't know how to do it, and she also is paying for the kids and has the kids all the time and doing all these other things. So they gave him, like, they don't know how to run it either, but they kind of gave him, like, these are going to be your jobs and these are going to be her jobs. And it just made it worse because he wouldn't do his. And I was like, I need this done. And then it's not done. So then I'm extra screwed because if he was supposed to order the food for the following week and then he doesn't do it, then we don't have anything. So it was like they told him to do whatever, but he still didn't do it. So it didn't matter.
What a train wreck.
Oh, it's terrible.
I bet you probably weren't laughing then. It's probably hysterical now when you tell other people, like, I can't believe this was my shitty life.
Oh, yeah, it was so bad. And I could write like a 3-hour stand-up on like the staff situations there. It was just like, what is going on here? Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay, so now the comeback part of it, because I know a couple of things. I don't know everything, but I do know a few things that I'm assuming you're going to share with us about your TV show and all the things.
Yeah, so I think it took me like a year to kind of digest everything and like decompress the shitstorm that was my life, because it was just, it's hard to see it from the outside in because it was going on for so long. It wasn't like one event and you're like, oh my gosh, I see how this shifted my life. Like, it was going on for so long. And then I ended up kind of getting screwed over by my attorney also in the divorce at the end. So I was like, I am so sick of like relying on people and asking people for help and like doing everything right. Like, I was doing everything right by everybody. I never asked for money. I never got pissed about, like, I never took it out on him that he wasn't showing up, even though it sucked, to the business and all the other stuff that was going on. But I ultimately was just getting continuously screwed over by people for just trying to do the right thing and just trying to get out live and like not screw anybody over. And that got me nowhere. Obviously, I just was taken advantage of continuously. And my attorney actually went to jail like a month or something after my divorce was finalized for sexually assaulting his clients and getting a DUI, like all while my divorce was going on and he's representing me. So that explains why he sucked, because he didn't even disclose any of that information to me. I was so mad because I'm like, it was so believable too, because he constantly would just like tell me I looked hot and stuff at court. And I'm like, I don't care. Can you just save me, please? Like, do something. So yeah. So then I find out he is actually going to jail for sexual assault. So that was cool, because I was really pissed about that too, because I'm like, I feel like he just totally took advantage of me and like made me go through all this hell because he was dealing with his own stuff. So after decompressing the amount of things that went on and just the lessons I learned from being let down constantly, I was like, all right, well, you know what? Whatever I want out of my life from here on out, I'm going to have to build. I'm not going to go. I was dating the guy that I'm still with now, but I'm not going to put that on him. I'm not going to put this on a boss or a family member or somebody to like build this life that I want, because what if their expectations for life and mine are not the same thing? If I want something, I have to figure out how to get it. And I just was like, okay, I got to start from, ground one and figure out how to build what I want, for me and my kids so that we have a future. And so I just started reading a lot, and I do audiobooks all the time. So I do audiobooks all day. And I stopped listening to crime documentaries so many times. I started listening to documentaries where I could like learn something from it. So whether it was about like marketing analytics, like really boring stuff, but it was like I kind of got addicted to like learning it because I was like, okay, I can't wait to implement this. So I started just learning all the time. So while the kids are at school and I'm working throughout the day, I'm always listening to a podcast or a book on tape or audiobook, how to build my business, build my character, rebuild my brain after all of that. And I think that's really what shifted my career and really my life, because I feel like I look at everything completely differently now. So I started putting myself out there more on my business, just on social media and marketing, which I really didn't want to do. Nobody wants to do that. And I just did it anyway. And it started to bring me more opportunities. And that's where I got the TV show. So the TV show reached out, and now we're doing this. It's an Emmy nominated show on lifestyle and real estate. And it's the American dream. We're doing Selling Michigan, obviously, because that's where I'm from. And so we film every other month for that. And that's been like a really good opportunity to just connect with business owners and just like from all over the state. It's been crazy.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Usually you meet someone and they have like one really bad thing that happened to them. And it's like, you have experience in all the bad things.
That was all the bad things that were like going on at that part, or at the same time. It was like a pressure cooker of misery.
But I can't even imagine. And especially because like the difference between running a restaurant and being in real estate, although very people oriented, both of them, those are two totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so
and having kids all the time.
Right. And so the restaurant, was that originally your ex-husband's idea, or was that your idea or y'all's idea?
That would never be my idea. I don't know why anyone would think that, but he didn't really I think we were kind of just like looking for, I'm sure he was constantly looking for a career, because like the job that he was in wasn't something that was going to be long term. He just was trying to find something, right? And real estate was going well for me. And so when this guy approached him with the business, he owns a bunch of different locations. So it's working out for him. So the way he explained it and like showed it to us sounded like it was promising. But I mean, it was his avenue of like, this is going to be my career. And I'm still going to do real estate. I would not be able to handle both of those on my own, having the kids all the time too. So either way, that was supposed to be his plan going forward.
So I think it's really important. Something that you mentioned that our listeners should have caught on to as well is that, your husband sought out something, or your ex-husband sought out something because somebody else was doing really well in it. I think what we fail to realize a lot of times is that someone else's path is not always your path, and we don't all get there the same way. Right.
But it sounds good.
Right.
It looks promising.
Yeah. Well, and we read all these books too, since you mentioned about reading books, we read all these books that it's like, some of my favorite books, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. If you never read that book, you should. It's amazing. But the 10X Rule, like all of these things, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, all of these books, they are part autobiography, but they're also part lesson in life and in business as entrepreneurs. But I think what we miss is we pick out the parts that are like, you're going to be rich in 6 months. And but you didn't miss the whole like meat and potatoes of this book, which was that they didn't sleep for 6 months. They literally went out and pounded the pavement and knocked on doors every single day from sun up to sundown. Like we miss all of those parts, and we jump on the bandwagon assuming that, okay, well, because they did it, then we're going to do it and we're going to be rich in 6 months. What? No.
Right.
Like that's not how that works.
I mean, I think we were living off of my income anyways, because we had to get a loan for the business. So obviously, like anything that we were making, which was actually none, come to find out, had to go towards paying that loan.
Right. Well,
So
and
it
you
was
guys
like,
had payroll too, right?
yeah, we had payroll, we had food costs, we had rent, we had royalties, we had like every other day, I swear I was like fixing a broken sink. It was like so much all the time. Like every day I would just wake up and be like, I don't even want to answer my phone. I don't want to get the mail. I want to get nothing. Then we get robbed, of course. So that was bad that.
Yeah, you should write a book. You should write a
Everybody
book.
tells me that.
You should. I get the same things, but so 5 years of my life, well, from right pre-COVID, 2019 actually, till now, I have a similar journey in terms of like the shitstorm that was my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we parallel in that aspect. But I think it's really interesting to watch where people come from, and I think it's also very interesting to hear how they have perceived the shitstorm that has been handed to them in life, and then what they do with it. Because I feel like in most scenarios, in your case, people would have been like, nope, done with all this. Like, go find me a 9-to-5, like working for corporate America for the rest of my life. And you turned that into like this whole empire that you're building, and you have a TV show. That's insane.
I feel like it's just, I'm like, I did not go through all that for nothing. Like, I'm not going through all that for like mediocre. So I think I kind of like channeled and like that toughness into other areas, because I'm like, I can work really hard and not get tired, but it's way easier when I'm doing things that are not terrible. So it's like I have all these things on my plate and everybody's like, how are you doing all this? And I'm like, this is nothing. Like, it's a lot, but this is not that bad compared to that.
So I do have a question. In all of this, what's surprised you the most about yourself in, all of this, the shitty, the not so bad, the mediocre, and now the really good stuff? Like, what surprised you the most about yourself?
I think I just actually realized how smart I am. Because I think a lot of times we're always trying to have somebody validate everything that we think. So then we never make a decision because we're so worried about making the wrong decision, and we never get anywhere because we get so stuck waiting or just like being afraid to start because we're second guessing ourselves. And I think through this, I'm like, if I would have not listened to a lot of the things people said, I probably would have gotten out of this sooner. But again, nobody knew what to do. But I think I just was so worried about making the wrong decision or fighting with him that it was like, well, I don't want to do this because that's going to upset him, and it's just going to like, then he's going to be under me, and then I'm going to be, drowning in all this drama that I don't want. And now it's like, I didn't tap out and like the most insane shit I've ever seen all happening at the same time. So now when I'm looking at something that's challenging or scary or like, I don't know, gives me anxiety, I'm like, whoever I'm going up against is definitely going to tap out before I am. So I think I'm good. So I think I realized that, first of all, I'm not going to tap out. And that's a huge strength, because mental strength, I think, is everything. And it's something that's so underestimated in a lot of people, I think women especially. So I think I learned coming out of that like, I actually am really smart with the decisions that I make, as long as I'm making my own decision. And I am literally rock solid compared to most people in my industry or whatever it is that I'm going up against.
I mean, you've probably been through like more in the last 5 years than most of them have been through in their whole entire life.
Right. And that doesn't even include anything that I went through before that. My cousin was like, you've lived like 9 lives. Like, so true.
And so this whole experience over the last 5, 6, 7 years almost, has it changed the way that you view failures now? Like, there's a lot of failures here, right? Or semi-failures that led to like one big ugly ass failure, right? It was that this business ended up failing, which was a business you never wanted in the first place. But look where you are now. When you have setbacks or their failures in life, do you view them differently now because of what you've been through?
I mean, they definitely don't seem as big of a deal, but I think it's easier for me to deal with it as long as I'm the one that failed. I didn't get failed by my attorney. I didn't get failed by corporate. Like, I didn't get failed by another person. I think when you put something on someone else and it fails, it's a lot harder to deal with. because then you're like harboring all this resentment and you're, mad at them and you don't actually ever move on from it. Where I feel like now, I mean, I am doing things that are scary, but I'm like, whatever, if it fails, at least I tried. And like,
It can't be any worse
remember
than
this.
what it was.
It's not going to be that bad. Plus, like, nobody's going to be thinking about this in 6 months. Like, oh, remember when she failed last year? Like, no one cares.
Ooh.
And I honestly have way too much going on to even care if somebody thinks I failed. I guess I give less shits now, which is good. Oh,
You're fine. I coughed. Sorry. No, and I think that's really important because I think that I think it speaks to the, your character, but I think it also speaks to your personal growth and how you translate that into your professional life. And so as a real estate agent, do you specialize in like military families or PCS moves or like celebrities or whatever? Like, what is your niche in real estate? Obviously more than being on television.
I mean, I would love celebrities, but I don't think many celebrities are coming to Michigan.
Listen, you might be surprised. The celebrities are moving everywhere now. And they might be moving somewhere else now because California.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully they're listening to this and they give me a call because I'm all about it. I guess I don't really have a niche, which is weird because everybody's like, you have to niche down. But my clients are all across the board, like lake houses, luxury homes, but then I also have a lot of just like single family homes, first time home buyers, like tons of stuff. So I feel like I'm really all across the board as far as price ranges go, but I'm also all over the map because originally we were kind of just in like the Ann Arbor area and sort of surrounding there. And now we're like Ann Arbor area to Detroit to, Birmingham to St. Clair to Traverse City. Like we're all over. Like I sold a house in September that was 4 hours away from my house and I sold it overnight.
Wow.
Yeah. The people didn't even see it. They just sent me an email and had me write the offer.
Sight unseen.
Yep.
That's how you know you're a good real estate agent. Sight unseen, and people will just write you a check.
Yep. And it went through. It was great.
And in all of this, now and, moving forward, what is it that you hope that anyone who's listening to this that may be in a very similar situation, hopefully their restaurants are getting robbed and their employees aren't on drugs. But somebody who's in a very similar situation to you, what would you say to them?
I think listen to yourself. And I think that's hard because I kind of lost that connection to even know what I thought at that time. Because I was so buried in so many things that I didn't even know what my own voice was anymore to even be able to listen to it. So I think the first thing to start with is listening to yourself and building yourself. So you kind of have to build almost like a shield around your brain and redirect the way that you talk to it to not let all the bullshit in that's going to direct you in the wrong way or, I guess paralyze you from making a move because you have so much anxiety about not being able to make the right decision. So I think for me, the best thing would have been to just shut everybody up and just listen to myself and start learning how to have healthy thoughts and strengthen myself kind of from my brain instead of listening to everybody else and just like begging somebody to help me, whether I'm paying an attorney or whatever. It's just like relying on yourself and taking action and being assertive. Because if you don't, then you're just going to get whatever leftover somebody's going to give you, and it's not going to be what you want. So if you don't take the first step, somebody else will.
Right. Well, and I think too, probably one of the things that I admire the most about you and your story is that you owned up to failures that were never your failures to start with. And I think that speaks a lot to your character and who you are as a person, that you were willing to own failures and own setbacks that were never initially intended to be yours in the first place. They just fell in your lap.
Yeah. I guess I didn't look at it that way, but that does make sense. I guess it looks better, I guess, looking at it from that standpoint.
this restaurant was never your idea. You even said, like, I don't even know who in the hell would think that would be my idea to start with. Like, that's not me.
But then, of course, with the divorce, he's like, she stole it from me and ran it into the ground. I'm like, why would I steal a failing restaurant with one employee?
You know what? That's big to begin with. What do you mean?
Yes. I'm like, I'm trying to make sure that you also don't get sued. So you're welcome.
Said, you're welcome.
I actually never said that. I think to this day, still, he doesn't know that he could be sued at any minute.
I mean,
still.
Listen, you have to take responsibility for your own actions, and his lack of, listen, karma comes back. It always does. You don't ever have to do anything.
I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that, but I'm like, I would be glad that I went in there and at least tried.
Right.
For a while.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you ended up getting out of the restaurant, and I'm glad that you're doing what you want to do now.
Yes, it's much better. I do still talk to, like, I had one employee at the end, and he was my only employee that I had for like the last year and a half. It was his playground, for real. His name was Terry, and he was like 60 years old, and he had like a workhorse work ethic. But he like butted heads with a lot of the other employees, so they would quit. And I'm like, whatever, this is Terry's playground now because he works so hard. And he would like bring his lawnmower in the back of his G6 and drive it to the restaurant to cut the grass. We were like best friends. He still texts me all the time.
It's that hustle mentality. Listen, you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah. We were a good team to really hang in there at the end.
Well, I'm glad that you had somebody to be a confidant in all of that. But I'm glad you were able to get rid of the restaurant, and I'm glad you're on a better path and doing better things.
Yeah, life is really good now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Before we wrap up, what for the listeners that are out there, what is one piece of advice or encouragement or wisdom that you'd like to leave with them?
Whatever you first figure out what you want in life. What do you want out of life? And then how are you going to get there? And it has to be on you. You can't have your reason be on somebody else is going to build it and you're going to be their cheerleader and whatever. Like, what are you going to build? And you have to be the one that does it. And I think for me, I didn't realize that everything was on me. Like, you get married and you're like, okay, cool. My husband's going to build this life for us. And like, I'm going to take care of the kids, or I'm working this job. And then when this person retires, they're going to hand it over to me. Like, no one's giving you anything. No one cares. You have to do what you want for yourself. And you got to start with building yourself to be ready for that.
Ooh, I love that. Have you ever read the book You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins?
No, but I'll add it to my list.
You should, because there's a part in there, it's actually in the very beginning, and he says, no one's coming to save you. Like, quit crying about everything. It's not a very child-appropriate book. There are a lot of cuss words in it, but it's very relatable, and that's essentially exactly what he says in that book is quit crying, because no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself.
And I also want to say, like, this always drives me kind of crazy. You're not that tired. Everybody's like, well, I'm tired, so I can't. Stop telling yourself you're tired, okay? You're not that tired. And I feel like it actually like irritated me when I was going through all this, and I would talk to someone like, I'm just tired. I'm like, I wish I was your level of tired. I'm dealing with a circus on top of like all these other things. So I think it's been such a crutch to society for everybody to just say, oh, I'm tired. I need a me day. I need this. I need to treat myself. I need whatever. You're not treating yourself by not building yourself. So for me, you're not that tired. Get up. You have time to do what you want to do. Figure out how to do it. Because there's enough time in the day to move somewhere. So keep moving.
Forward progression.
Stop using tired as an excuse.
Y'all heard that from Brittany herself. You are not tired. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's been a privilege to have you as a co-host this morning. And so before we sign off, tell all of our listeners how they can connect with you so that they can see what you're doing this year.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Brittany Racine _ on Facebook at just Brittany Racine. And then my TikTok is Brittany Racine 643. But I just started TikToking. I'm just kind of moving everything over there because apparently that's everybody else's platform, but I'm like old.
Yes.
I guess. I'm too old for that, but I'm on there.
I'm old too, and I'm trying to be on TikTok so hard, but it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah. It's getting easier, but Yeah, I'm on there for whoever only TikToks.
Got it. Well, that's it today for today's show of Unapologetically Heather, Raw and Rising. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you found as much inspiration in Brittany's story as I did. And don't forget to follow the podcast, our Instagram, and our Facebook page for more raw, unfiltered stories, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep it real, stay rising, and never apologize for being you. Catch you later.